After many backlash and negative reviews of Black Ops 4 due to the game being online only, Treyarch was finally bringing back the single-player campaign on their newer game called Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. Well, glad to hear about our complaint because Call of Duty without campaign doesn't feel right, no matter how good or the bad campaign is. And when they announced Black Ops Cold War, I'm so happy that we're going back to Cold War era with many dark events and history, which is very interesting to learn. And of course, we're going to see Mason, Woods and Hudson again. I always taking some freedom to analyzing every Black Ops games in terms of gameplays, missions, settings, etc. And that's why I'm making this critic video to see how many aspects in the campaign that are good or bad. As a Black Ops fan, there are something that doesn't feel right about this game. Okay, before I get into the topic, it's important to say that this is my personal criticism and probably some people who watching this will disagree with it, but it's alright, I can respect it. Everyone has its own opinions. And all of this was based on my experience after completing the campaign. Let's take a look for the great aspect first. Like some unique features they add, as we can see in the start, we have to see this cutscene intro of TV news talking about the Cold War. The cutscenes had some very great cinematography, especially when using some real footage during that era, making the game looks more authentic, just like what they did with World at War or Black Ops 1, which is very nice touch. And after that, you jump into the mission where you got to play as Mason. I find it really weird he's not having a personality like in the previous Black Ops, especially he's rarely talking here. Also, we got to see Adler here, a fellow agent that is trying to helping us to find a name of a man named Kasim to gain the intel. I find his characteristic very great. He's such a badass and professional character, and mainly the game is more focusing at him as well. So you get in to Kasim's house, shooting his men and chasing him. Then when you jump from roof to roof, you finally got him. Then we're able to interrogating him. Treyarch is trying to be different this time, where they finally add some unique features like dialogue choices when talking or interrogating with someone, where each options we choose also have different consequences, and changing the scenario. You can even kill or capture him after gaining the information. You can get a puzzle after interrogating that man I have mentioned before. Then you have to review the right suspects or decrypting of floppy disks. This is one of the new features that had never been done with their previous games, because this time it requires a lot of thinking and hard work to solve it. Even we have to use our math skills in it, just like what real agents gonna do on their operations. And once we solve it, it can give you access to special side missions. There are like 2 side missions: Operation Chaos, where we went to kill a rogue CIA operative, and Operation Red Circus, where we had to kill a KGB officer working for Perseus. It's really a nice touch that after solving those puzzles that takes much time, doesn't only giving us common achievements or just being a mini game. Instead, they giving us these side missions. I wish there are more side missions available in this game and making the duration longer, but it's still a great additions. For a game that is more focusing on espionage settings, I find those are very enjoyable to play, especially some of stealth missions that execute it very well, like Breaking the Wall, where you have to sneaking around in East Germany and finding a man named Kraus. We also given up some optional objectives, like when you meet an informant that was captured, you can kill or saving him, but when you are not trusting him, you can exploring around, finding some items that can reveal his identity, and when you find out that he was working with the enemy, you can finally kill him without feeling guilty. I really like this approach, man, because this mission have so many activities we can do, and each options we choose later can also affect the scenario that we're going to see later. Later, when you are already in his apartment, you will see his wife that distracting our goal to capture him, and you have to shoot her with tranquilizer gun and without killing her with a common pistol and putting her to sleep to make it less suspicious. Then we have to find any signs and marks with flashlight where Kraus hits his briefcase. And finally, you found his room. It's very great to see that Call of Duty is having some creative missions like this. Very different, unlike some of previous games, where in stealth sequence you usually just having a common objective, just sneaking around without getting detected and reach the zone. But this time they really made some unique objectives that feels like playing an actual spy. Another great and favorite stealth mission is when you're playing as a double agent named Belikov. You need to let Adler and Bell get inside to the headquarters. It's sounds easy at first, but it's actually more complex because it needs more strategy to finding that access card, so both of them can enter the bunker. When you get into a meeting, you learn that only a trust person will have an access to the bunker. There are many ways to get that access card. You can either find it or even try to make your own. When you find that person who has a card named Charkov, you can even try to poison him or accusing him as a mole. It's very nice touch, more ways to more possibilities we got, and it will give us more replayability and more curious for trying the different endings or consequences. And I actually like the endings too, where they have some small gunfight sequences that looks inspired from No Russians Modern Warfare 2 and Dust to Dust from Modern Warfare 3. For some non or partially stealth missions, I find them enjoyable to play, but for my taste, some of missions they have are really bland. I mean, having only basic gunfights or lacks of chaotic moment, especially the Echoes of Cold War mission where you infiltrate some old Soviet base from Black Ops 1. To be honest, I find it really bland, just common infiltration mission with basic gunfights with nothing special, no memorable scenes or badass moments. I mean, look at the mission of WMD in Black Ops 1. Having the same locations, but tons of great and adrenaline moment. For example, where you are having a gunfight with cool background music playing. Cool slow-mo sequence.
Ready when you are.
Running away from F-Lands. And escaping the base while almost getting buried by F-Lands. Most of Black Ops Cold War missions, including Echoes of Cold War, really lacks of that. Like, remember in Black Ops 1, you got so many open scale war missions, full of blockbusters and chaotic moments, like some missions of Black Ops 1, crash site mission, destroying some village full of enemies with your gunboat, or SOG, deployed into Vietnamese war zone, where many enemies are taking your position. In Kaisan, you got fired by tons of mortars, seeing a napalm strike bombing the enemies. Another mission where you assaulting Hue City under heavy fire and loads of offensive. Or another example in Black Ops 2 where so many teammates are taking and charging the MPLA's position, while we got also surrounded by mortars or tanks, and later we have to destroy some of their vehicles with helicopter. Or take a look at Old Ones missions where you have to defend the Mujahideen base from the attacks of Soviet helis, BTRs and tanks, and all you only have is your Stinger to destroy all of them while riding a horse. As you can see in some mission of Black Ops 1 or 2, you can see every soldiers fighting and charging together, lots of actions and explosions, tanks and helis are everywhere. You don't see this much in Black Ops Cold War. The Factory Joe mission is the only things we got close. Most of Black Ops Cold War missions feels less chaos compared to Black Ops 1 or 2, and mostly just some basic gunfights and like that. But the gameplay is even great and very solid. They're trying to be different with Modern Warfare reboot, but they still execute it really well with their arcade approachment. And in the beginning, when we first playing as Bell, you can also use some perks and skills that changing our movement, reload or anything. And using some guns like Sniper is a lot satisfying too. You can feel the kicks of it, and the way they made some cool and brutal takedown animations, like you can using your enemy as a human shield, throwing him with grenade just like Far Cry, or having some gruesome knife stabbing makes the game even better, because that's what Treyarch games are known about, having some brutal and crazy actions, even though there are no dismembering features like what Black Ops 1 did, unfortunately, but still giving me some gruesome vibes. Black Ops Campaign was known to its great missions filled with many historical elements. As you can see in Black Ops 1, we have some missions set during Bay of Pigs invasion, secret operation in Laos or Vietnam War, or Black Ops 2 that had Angolan Civil War, Soviet-Afghan War, South American War on Drugs, or Invasion of Panama. Ironically, for Black Ops Cold War, which also taking place during the same era, it had very lacks of historical elements they put, like even almost of 90% missions are taking place in fictional spy battle. It would have been better if they are following the same approaching like Black Ops 2 with missions based from real operation and conflicts. I mean, in the 80s, so many countries were in chaos due to the results of proxy Cold War. I was expecting they are gonna discovering about some of those lesser known conflicts in Asia, Africa or Latin America, especially the most brutal and major ones like South African Border War, Iran-Iraq War, Mozambican Civil War, Nicaraguan Revolution, Ethiopian Civil War or Lebanese Civil War. It would have been a great settings, and it's a missed opportunity for a game that was supposed to be set in real events of 1980s, didn't even at least mentioning about those brutal conflicts. Once again, they don't really take a note from Black Ops 1 or 2 that had a great balance between fictional and historical missions. In Black Ops Cold War, you even only have 2 Vietnam missions for a historical one. History is always a special edition, and that's what makes Black Ops 1 and 2 storyline even better. If you are not into history, I think you won't care about it, but for me, it's actually a great thing to make the plot more believable and interesting, but they really forgot to put that thing for Black Ops Cold War. It seems that they don't have some balls anymore like what they did with Black Ops 1 or 2. As you can see, there are so many wars and events during the Cold War that are very sensitive to talking about it, and they're trying to play safe to avoid some controversies. Just look at Black Ops 1, where you gotta see some of scenes with sensitive topics like JFK assassination or even Castro's failed assassination. Even the Cuban government noticed it. Or look at Black Ops 2, where they add some real infamous characters like Savimbi, Noriega, and they even got sued by Savimbi's family or Noriega for falsely depicting them in the game. And this is another proof that Treyarch was more brave back then by including some controversial topics for the sake of storyline. And that's why Black Ops 1 and 2 got the best storyline and plot, and making it realistic, dark as possible. Black Ops Cold War storyline feels too soft for depicting the horrors of Cold War. I find the storyline is also good, but for a Black Ops game, it seems that they lacks of shocking moments or plot twist. Even their plot twist is considered good, but it's not shock as Black Ops 1 or 2. Another great plot twist where you learn that you are actually a Perseus agent who was brainwashed by the CIA and used by them to find Perseus. And another great thing in the storyline is not to trust the CIA, and they actually depicting them as a brutal and shady organization and not trying to sanitize them as a good guy. Well, that's a checkmark for Treyarch by not using some good guys versus bad guys cliche. So I still enjoy the storyline. And in fact that the storyline is still much better and understandable than Black Ops 3. And I also like the last mission where we either saying the truth or lie and we can get a different mission. I have tried them both, and I actually like the ending where you betrayed your CIA friends and reunite with Perseus. It's a lot more satisfying. Blowing up Europe with your nuclear weapon, much better and spectacular ending than the truth version. Another problem about storyline is I wish Perseus, the main villain, has more screen time and better character writing, or having an extended backstory with Belle, like some missions where we can see them both working together. And one more thing that makes me so disappointed is how they treating some original characters so bad. I mean, only using Mason, Woods or Hudson as a side character, and even worse, they were voiced by different actors that ruined the original personality. Even Mason voice is so terrible, but I think it's an okay for Woods. They're even making a new plot that don't have heavy connections with Black Ops 1 or 2. It would have been better if they are keeping Mason, Woods or Hudson as main character and more focusing on their untold operations, especially including some missions of backstory of Korean War, Operation Charybdis, one of operations where Mason, Hudson and Weaver almost got killed, what happened with Woods and his squad in Vietnam after being presumed dead, or even having some missions taking place in South America by seeing the rise of power of Menendez and explaining how he became one of the most fierce cartel in South America. Just like Time and Fate mission, but it was set during different year and location, where we hunt down Menendez but it was failed. Or some Black Ops declassified missions, but with more and extended missions that similar to it. Sadly, it never appears in campaign and we never know the entire scenario in depth because it was only told through narration or text. By having some missions like that, it seems it will be a perfect direct sequel and prequel of Black Ops 2 with more connected storyline, instead by making a whole new plot and forcefully trying to tie up between Black Ops 1 or 2. So, in conclusion, is Cold War campaign good for me? The answer is definitely yes, and I really enjoy it aside for some issues. For a newer COD game, it's also much better than Vanguard campaign, but let's just be honest, it's still not as perfect as Black Ops 1 or 2, but at least it's still acceptable, since for its very rushed production timing with only having 5 months due to how stupid Activision for treating their employees, and also COVID, which makes the development of the game more difficult, and they have to working at home. Even the actors have to performing some mocap at home. It's a great dedication, as I can say. I think if only they were not having those issues, probably the campaign would be better than we have. Also, I hear there will be another Black Ops game in 2024, and I hope it will be much better and make it perfect like Black Ops 1 or 2. Okay, so I think that's just for the video, and that's my honest criticism about campaign. Hope you enjoy my video and see you next time.